Sit back, relax and enjoy listening. The car ride back to the office was heavy with an unspoken weight. RK sat in silence, his head leaning against the window, his expression vacant but his mind racing with turmoil. His lips were pressed into a thin line, his hands tightly clasped in his lap. It was as though the weight of the girl's words had wrapped around him, suffocating his ability to speak. Jill glanced at RK repeatedly from the driver's seat, his heart sinking with every silent moment. Seeing his brother like this, so quiet, so lost, was a sight he wasn't used to, and it scared him deeply. Jill was strong, always steady when others faltered, but this was different. Watching RK, the person he looked up to the most, unravel in silence left him feeling helpless and weak in a way he couldn't explain. He gripped the steering wheel tightly, his mind racing with thoughts of what he could do to help. RK, is everything okay? He asked, his voice trembling slightly, betraying his fear. But RK didn't respond, his gaze fixed somewhere far beyond the glass, as if trapped in his own world. Jill's chest tightened. It hurt him to see his brother like this, and not knowing how to pull him out of it hurt even more. He wanted to press, to ask, to make RK speak, but something about the emptiness in RK's eyes made him hold back. He was scared that whatever was weighing RK down was something he couldn't fix. In the end, Jill swallowed the lump in his throat and decided to drive on in silence, hoping that getting RK back to familiar surroundings might help. But deep down, he couldn't shake the fear that, for the first time, even he might not be enough to bring RK back from this. When they arrived back at the office, RK stepped out of the car mechanically, his mind a storm of emotions. He didn't notice the familiar building, the bustling staff, or even Jill calling his name. He moved on autopilot, heading straight for his personal office without acknowledging anyone. Jill rushed in after him, his face pale and tense. His obvious unease immediately caught the attention of the team, who quickly gathered around him, their expressions growing more worried by the second. "Jill, what's going on?" one of them asked, their voice tinged with concern. Jill exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair, as if trying to find the right words. "It's RK. Something's wrong. He hasn't said a word since we left that meeting." "What meeting? What are you talking about?" another member questioned, confusion written all over their face. Jill's voice trembled as he began. "I set up a meeting with that girl. RK met her last night. She told him her story about how one reporter ruined her life, and how SV stepped in to save her. Remember this morning, when you all told RK to forget about the incident? You said there's no point thinking about SV, that she must have some hidden agenda, as she always does." "Yeah, we said that, because she always has," one of them admitted without hesitation. Jill sighed. "At first RK listened to you. He tried to let it go. But then, SV's mom called him. I don't know everything she said, but RK found out SV has been dealing with some childhood trauma. That call shook him. He couldn't let it go after that. He said he wanted to know the truth, what really happened that day. That's why I arranged the meeting with that girl." One of the team members frowned, their curiosity piqued. "The truth? About what?" Jill's voice grew heavier. "About SV and that whole incident." RK thought she was being her usual self, rude, arrogant, and just throwing her power around. But it wasn't like that at all. The team leaned in, sensing the weight of what Jill was about to reveal. "What happened? What did the girl say to RK that made him like this?" one of them pressed. Jill took a deep breath before continuing. "You all remember that day, the day RK first met SV? During that interview with John?" They nodded, the memory still fresh in their minds. "Back then, RK saw SV slap John," Jill said, his voice tight. "He thought she was arrogant, using her power to bulldoze anyone who crossed her. He even stood up for John, thinking SV was out of line." Another member frowned. "Wait, are you saying she wasn't out of line?" Jill shook his head. "Not at all. That slap wasn't random. It was for a reason RK never knew because he didn't ask. That girl we met today, she's the one SV was protecting. John, he hurt her. He caused her unimaginable pain. SV didn't hesitate to stand up for her, even though she knew people would hate her for it. She didn't care if the world misunderstood her. She just couldn't let that girl suffer in silence." The room fell silent as the weight of Jill's words settled over them. And RK? One of them asked hesitantly. Jill nodded, his voice thick with emotion. The girl told RK everything. How SV saved her. How she endured the world's hatred without defending herself. She said she didn't have the courage to tell the world, but she couldn't let RK, of all people, continue to misunderstand SV. She said he deserved to know the truth and understand why SV did what she did. Another team member took a sharp breath. So that's why RK's like this. Jill nodded again, his tone somber. He's devastated. He's realizing how wrong he's been about SV all this time. And it's tearing him apart inside.